Michael stepped out of the bus, taking in the quiet beauty of the village that sprawled before him. He was here on a research project to study the rich culture and traditions of this small rural African community. As he adjusted his bag, a wave of nervous anticipation washed over him. He could feel the eyes on him even before he spotted the people gathered around, curious about the newcomer. From behind a group of mango trees, a handful of women whispered and giggled. Their eyes widened when they saw him, a tall American with an easy smile and Caesar-cut hair that fell in waves. It wasn't long before the whispers turned into harsh excitement. In particular, Adjoa, the self-proclaimed beauty queen of the village, was intrigued. She turned to her friends, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "Have you ever seen someone like him around here?" she murmured. Her friends shook their heads, transfixed. As Michael entered the village proper, he was greeted warmly, everyone curious to see the visitor who had traveled so far to learn about their culture. Little did they know, his interest extended well beyond what they assumed. For his part, Michael maintained a quiet smile, hoping to observe the community without drawing too much attention to himself, though it was already too late for that. Among the women, Adjoa was the first to set a plan in motion. She was certain that Michael would be hers if she played her cards right, and she wasted no time gathering her friends to brainstorm ways to catch his eye. "This one is a prize," she said, smirking as she watched Michael settle in. "We are not letting him leave here without at least one of us wins his heart." Her friends exchanged skeptical glances, but Adjoa's confidence was infectious. Soon, they were all buzzing with excitement, plotting how they might each make an impression on the village's handsome stranger. A few days later, the villagers threw a welcome celebration for Michael. They arranged benches and tables piled with food, platters of rice, bowls of thick spicy stew, and bundles of fresh fruit. The villagers wore their best clothes, and the music and laughter carried on the evening breeze. Michael took a seat near the elders, trying to blend in as best as he could. Adjoa and her friends, however, were anything but subtle. Every few minutes, they'd pass by his table, glancing his way and giggling. Eventually, Adjoa took her chance, bringing over a tray of food and fruits. "Here, Michael," she said, flashing him with her most winning smile. "Try some of the best food in the village. I made it myself." Michael thanked her, taking a polite bite and nodding approvingly. But his reaction was not the gushing appreciation Adjoa had hoped for. He just smiled back, but Adjoa was hoping he'd shower her with praises, telling her her cooking skills were exceptional. Still, she didn't lose heart. Instead, she rallied her friends to create more opportunities. The village musicians struck up a lively tune, and the women broke into a traditional dance. As they spun and swayed, Adjoa shot quick glances Michael's way, trying to gauge his reaction. Though he smiled, he remained seated, offering only polite claps and nods. She could almost see the question marks forming over her friends' heads. Was he even noticing them? One of the women nudged Adjoa. Maybe he's just shy." Adjoa shook her head confidently. "No, he's just playing hard to get, trust me. He thinks he can resist, but not for long." The group of women continued their efforts, laughing among themselves as they planned their next move. Michael, meanwhile, enjoyed the company and atmosphere but remained, to their increasing frustration, politely distant. As the days passed, Adjoa's mission to capture Michael's heart became an unspoken village pastime. Adjoa, ever the determined ringleader, enlisted her friends for a full-fledged campaign. Later the same night, They planned an impromptu dance session. Adjoa took the lead, organizing everyone into the village square, drumming up a festive mood. She danced with extra flair, adding spins and flourishes in Michael's direction. She caught Michael glancing over a few times, and each look encouraged her to perform even bolder moves. But as she executed a particularly enthusiastic twirl, she intentionally lost her footing and stumbled forward, landing right in front of Michael. Her friends gasped, but Adjoa laughed. She was putting her plan in action. She pretended to be wounded, expecting Michael, her Superman, to come to her aid, carrying her in his arms as if she were a baby. But Michael didn't respond the way she had expected. He just said sorry without even touching her to see if she was alright. Adjoa, realizing that Michael's response wouldn't be what she had anticipated, quickly got up. Playing hard to get, Abby? I like that. Challenge accepted. Adjoa whispered to herself, feeling her resolve strengthen. But unlike Adjoa, who wanted to make Michael his man, other women like Ya saw him in a different light. Ya's interest in Michael was quiet, more reserved. She observed his expressions, his reserved mannerisms, and how his smile was sometimes more polite than enthusiastic. She noticed how at ease he seemed with Kojo, a soft-spoken young man who had taken on the role of Michael's unofficial tour guide. Ya wondered if there was something more to Michael's reserved nature. She kept her distance but watched him carefully, her intuition telling her that he might not be as oblivious to the women's efforts as he appeared. But what the ladies didn't know, though Ya had seen but didn't give a thought, was that Michael had indeed taken a liking to Kojo, his unofficial tour guide, whose quiet presence was a relief from the chaotic attention Adjoa and her friends showered on him. Kojo, a gentle soul with a passion for his culture, enjoyed showing Michael around, explaining village customs and introducing him to the people. But what Kojo also didn't know was that Michael's interest was more than just cultural curiosity. He was actually falling in love with him. One afternoon, as they sat by the river discussing village life, Kojo began to tease Michael about the attention he was getting from the women. You know, they say you are a difficult man to impress, Kojo said, chuckling. Especially Adjoa. She's not one to give up easily. Michael laughed hard, feeling both amused and uncomfortable. Oh really? I hadn't noticed, he said, trying to mask his awkwardness. Kojo laughed, oblivious to Michael's discomfort. Everyone has noticed though. If you keep this up, the entire village will start thinking you are made of stone. Michael's smile froze slightly, and he shifted his gaze to the water. Well, maybe I just haven't met the right person yet. Kojo nodded sagely, placing his hand on his knee. Take your time, my friend. Just be careful, or Adjoa will chase you all the way back to America. And if you don't take care, she will marry you even before you say, yes I do. Michael smiled softly, but his mind wandered as he looked at Kojo's kind face, wishing he could share the truth with someone. But he knew he had to be careful here. The village's culture was traditional, and he wasn't sure how people would react to the fact that he was gay. So he kept his thoughts to himself, choosing instead to let the moment pass. Days turned into weeks, and Michael's polite but distant demeanor toward the women left Adjoa and her friends perplexed and frustrated. Despite their endless attempts to charm him, he hadn't shown even the faintest spark of interest in any of them. To Adjoa, this was incomprehensible. In the village, she was accustomed to receiving admiration and attention, yet Michael seemed entirely unaffected. One afternoon, Adjoa sat with her friends under the shade of a mango tree. A sore look crossed her face as she recounted Michael's most recent rejection, a barely there smile and a distracted nod when she offered him a hand-woven bracelet. "Can you believe it?" she fumed. "He just said, 'Thank you, Adjoa,' and he walked off. He didn't even look twice at the bracelet." Her friends sighed in sympathy, shaking their heads. "Maybe he thinks he's too good for us," one woman suggested, her voice tinged with irritation. Another woman, one of Adjoa's closest confidants, leaned in and whispered, "Or maybe he's not interested in village women at all. Maybe he's too modern and wants someone from his own country." The idea caught on quickly, and within a day, the village was buzzing with gossip. Each time the rumor was repeated, it gained new layers. Some whispered that Michael looked down on their traditions, others said he was simply too shy, and a few even suggested that he might be under a strange American spell that made him immune to local charm. The gossip reached such a fever pitch that even Ya overheard it as she walked through the marketplace, where groups of women speculated openly about Michael's behavior. She couldn't help but smile at their interpretations, sensing that none of them had even come close to understanding Michael's true feelings. Though she was shy, Ya's quiet intelligence and observant nature allowed her to see what others missed. As she strode past, Adjoa caught sight of her and called her over. "Ya, come here. Don't you think it's strange that Michael has shown no interest in any of us?" Ya shrugged, glancing away with a slight smile. "Maybe he's just shy," she said, hiding her suspicions behind her modest response. But Adjoa huffled, clearly unconvinced. "Shy? More like too proud. Well, we'll see about that. If he won't notice us, we'll just have to force him, by hook or crook." The frustrated women began organizing themselves in even grander efforts to capture Michael's attention. Adjoa, fueled by wounded pride, took charge, making plans that grew more extravagant by the day. "At the festival," she announced, "we'll put on a performance he'll never forget. I mean, one that even when he was sleeping, he will be mentioning my name. 'Adjoa, Adjoa, I love you. Adjoa, I love you.' If he's not impressed by that, then maybe he is truly a stone-hearted man." The women exchanged eager looks. They threw themselves into preparations, perfecting their dances and decorating their costumes with extra flair, each detail carefully designed to dazzle. One afternoon, as Michael sat on the edge of the village square, sketching notes and enjoying the shade of a baobab tree, he saw Adjoa and her friends approaching. Their expressions were determined, as if they'd reached a new level of resolve. Michael's heart sank slightly as he realized they were likely heading his way with another scheme to charm him. Adjoa stopped directly in front of him, her arms crossed and a playful glint in her eye. "Michael," she began with a sweet teasing tone, "how long are you planning to keep all of us waiting?" He looked up, trying to play along with a friendly smile. "Oh, waiting for what?" Adjoa tilted her head, giving a knowing look. "You can't pretend you haven't noticed though. We've all been trying to make you feel welcome. Very welcome." Michael laughed nervously, scratching the back of his head. Yes, I've definitely noticed, and I appreciate it. Everyone here has been very kind. But you don't act very interested," Adjoa replied, her tone probing now, her friends nodding in agreement. He felt a flash of embarrassment rise, unsure how to respond without sounding rude or giving away too much. "I'm just focused on my work," he managed to say, forcing a light laugh. "There's a lot to learn about this village, you know." Adjoa raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. But before she could push further, Kojo appeared, carrying a bundle of firewood. Relieved, Michael seized the opportunity to leave, jumping up and excusing himself to go help Kojo with something urgent. Adjoa watched him go, her frown deepening as she shared a pointed look with her friends. "Just you wait, Michael," she murmured to herself. Tonight's festival would change everything. Later, back at one site he was exploring, Michael sat down, exhaling deeply. This was getting out of hand. He hadn't expected so much attention, nor had he anticipated the difficulty of deflecting it without hurting anyone's feelings. The village had been so warm and welcoming, and he didn't want to offend anyone or make his orientation a point of misunderstanding. But as he thought about Kojo's presence, he felt a pang of frustration mixed with longing. Kojo's easygoing friendship had been a lifeline, a source of comfort in the midst of his awkward predicament. Michael found himself looking forward to their moments together, even though he knew he couldn't share his true feelings. He was drawn to Kojo's gentle smile, his laughter, and the quiet strength in his voice when he spoke of village traditions. Yet, he knew that any hint of his attraction could jeopardize the friendship and complicate things even more. In the village, where everyone's lives were so closely woven together, he couldn't risk being fully open. As the sun began to set, a heavy feeling settled in his chest, mingling with the anticipation of the evening's festival. In the square, the villagers were setting up for the night's festivities. The air was filled with the smell of roasted yams and spiced meat, and the cheerful sound of drums echoed through the warm night air. Decorations hung from every corner, and the villagers were dressed in their finest attire, ready for an evening of celebration and performance. As Michael arrived, he saw Adjoa and her friends gathered near the stage area, giggling and whispering. Adjoa's gaze fixed briefly on him, and he could tell from the glint in her eye that she had something planned. Feeling a mixture of dread and amusement, he decided to keep a low profile, hoping to blend into the background. But Adjoa and her friends had made other plans. The performances began with traditional dances, each one with a beautiful display of rhythm and movement, full of energy and pride. Michael was mesmerized, marveling at the grace and power of the dances. But he noticed that, now and then, a few of them would glance his way, as if waiting for some sort of reaction. As the main performance approached, he realized with a sinking feeling that it was all building up to something significant. When Adjoa and her group finally took the stage, the crowd fell silent, watching with rapt attention. The women began their dance, each movement carefully choreographed, their vibrant costumes flowing and spinning. The energy was electrifying, but Michael found himself feeling increasingly uncomfortable as he sensed that the entire performance was directed solely at him. As the dance came to a close, the women stood still, looking straight at him with expectant smiles, and the crowd turned their eyes towards him, waiting for some kind of response. Michael managed a shaky smile and clapped politely, hoping his discomfort wasn't too obvious, but Adjoa wasn't about to let him off so easily. With a bold grin, she walked forward, stopping just a few feet away, and called out in a voice that everyone could hear. "Michael, all of us have been wondering why you have shown no interest in any of the village women." The crowd fell into an eager hush, everyone turning to see how he would answer. Michael's heart pounded. He tried to force a smile, his thoughts racing as he felt the full weight of the village's attention. He knew he couldn't keep sidestepping the question forever, but he also wasn't sure if he was ready to tell the truth. The festival lights flickered as the crowd's curious silence lingered, every eye fixed on Michael as Adjoa's question hung in the air. Why have you shown no interest in any of the village women? Michael's heart raced as he felt the weight of expectation settle heavily around him. He took a slow breath, scanning the sea of expectant faces, each one reflecting a mix of hope, amusement, and impatience. Adjoa stood front and center, her eyes locked onto his with an almost challenging gaze. I haven't shown any interest because... He hesitated, feeling a sudden surge of courage and vulnerability. Because I don't find any of the women attractive. I'm gay. The silence that followed was instant and profound, like the whole world had stopped spinning. Michael's face flashed as he watched the villagers absorb this information, some gasping quietly, others exchanging shocked glances. He held his breath, bracing himself for whatever reaction might come. Adjoa's mouth fell open, her expression a strange mixture of disbelief, confusion, and embarrassment. She blinked, clearly trying to process this unexpected revelation. After a bit, she turned back to her friends, muttering, "Well, that explains everything." The crowd began to murmur as the shock wore off, with whispers rippling through the gathering. Michael could pick up fragments of conversation. Some were stunned, others amused, and a few, thankfully, even seemed to laugh in relief at the misunderstanding. But as the crowd shifted around him, Michael's eyes sought after Kojo, who stood apart from the others. Kojo's face had turned solemn, a mixture of surprise and discomfort flickering in his expression. Michael's heart sank. He could tell by Kojo's look that his friend had heard every word, and he feared this revelation might affect their friendship. Over the next few days, Michael noticed a change in Kojo. While he still greeted politely, there was a new distance between them, a careful hesitation that hadn't been there before. Michael understood that it was a lot to process, especially in a culture where this kind of openness was rare and likely misunderstood. Each encounter with Kojo felt increasingly strained. When they passed each other in the village, Kojo's once easy smile seemed tighter, and his gaze often drifted away quickly. The friendly warmth they shared had turned into a formal politeness, and it stung Michael to know his honest revelation has caused this discomfort. But he knew he couldn't leave things unsettled, and he resolved to speak to Kojo directly. One evening, Michael found Kojo sitting alone by the riverbank, his gaze fixed on the shimmering water. Taking a steady breath, Michael approached, sitting down beside him without saying anything at first. They both stared at the water in silence until finally, Michael spoke. "Kojo," he began quietly, "I know things have felt different this past few days. I just wanted to clear the air. I know my revelation at the festival was unexpected." Kojo nodded slowly, his face still turned away. "Yes, it was," he said, his tone soft but firm. Michael swallowed, trying to find the right words. "I didn't mean to surprise anyone, especially not you. But, well, it's the truth about who I am." Kojo finally turned to look at him, his eyes thoughtful. "I understand that, Michael," he said, "and I want you to know, I don't have a problem with some men being attracted to other men. I think I can understand that." He paused, the sincerity in his voice evident. A glimmer of relief washed over Michael, though he sensed there was more to Kojo's thoughts. But Kojo continued, carefully choosing his words. I think maybe you feel something for me that I can't return. I am honored by your friendship, and I respect you very much, but I don't feel the same way. Michael's shoulders relaxed, a wave of understanding washing over him. Though he'd hoped for something more, he knew deep down that Kojo's words were honest and kind. He managed a small grateful smile, nodding. Thank you, Kojo. I really appreciate you telling me that. They both fell silent, the cool evening air surrounding them as they sat together, understanding yet feeling the invisible line now drawn between them. Michael felt a mixture of gratitude and sadness. Though he'd come to terms with the outcome, the subtle discomfort that had grown between them would likely linger. Over the following days, Michael prepared to return home, bidding quiet goodbyes to the villagers who had, despite the misunderstandings, welcomed him with open arms. As he packed his bags, he couldn't shake the bittersweet feeling that his time here had ended in ways he hadn't expected, yet had helped him grow in ways he hadn't realized he needed. On his final morning, he saw Kojo once more by the riverbank. They exchanged a few quiet words, each expressing gratitude for the friendship they had shared, even if things could no longer be as they were. Michael knew he would carry the memory of their connection with him, even if he hadn't turned out the way he had once hoped. With a final handshake, they parted, each with an unspoken misunderstanding that, despite the complexities, they shared something real and meaningful. As Michael walked away from the village, he felt a sense of closure, carrying with him the lessons of friendship, honesty, and acceptance. He felt the weight of his recent experiences settle within him, both heavy and grounding. He'd come to this place to learn about others, but in the end, he discovered more about himself, about the complexities of friendship, honesty, and acceptance. The village had given him moments of joy and warmth, and even though his truth hadn't been easy for everyone to accept, it was a truth he knew he could no longer hide. Michael's thoughts turned to Kojo, to the quiet kindness and understanding they'd shared, and the difficult but respectful way Kojo had expressed his feelings. In that conversation, Michael saw the strength of honesty, the kind that didn't require hurtful words or bitterness, but simply offered acceptance of each other as they were. The courage to be truthful had brought him peace, even if it hadn't brought him the love he had hoped for. Their friendship, though altered, was still something he would carry with him with gratitude. As he continued on his journey, Michael reflected on the cultural misunderstandings and the humorous yet humbling moments he shared with Adjoa, Ya, and the others. In a world where his identity might still be questioned, he realized the importance of respecting others' beliefs while staying true to himself. The love and laughter of the village had changed him, showing him that every person, every culture held its own truths. Though his orientation had set him apart, he felt a kinship with the people here that transcended those differences. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like this. God richly bless you. Catch you in the next video.